His time's expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Tiffany, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And some of those that you just rattled off, Mr. Summers, we have right in the great state of Wisconsin, and we're not being allowed to mine them with some of the toughest environmental regulations you'll find anywhere in the world. Mr. Franklin, good to have you here today. In your statement here, the government can create fairness in this process by mandating consultation. Are there states that are not consulting with tribes?
Yeah. And so as a part of the Mining Act, you see that happen. And I won't say states that aren't consulting, because states, our states do a good job of reaching out to tribes and discussing. But for the purposes of this Mining Act, absolutely. But for the purposes of states, they do.
So if you could share with me a list of the states that don't consult with the tribes, because I think about the state of Wisconsin. I mean, we specifically have a consultation process, and I'd be very surprised that there's a state that isn't. But if there is, I'd sure like to see that list, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. And I have some staff behind me from the National Association of TIPOs that can work and probably get you a list of projects where the consultation that was done was extremely poor. But I will compliment you on your state. You all have done a fine job. And Menominee certainly is a tribe that has discussed consultation with your state and it being inclusive.
Sure. You also state in here, we do not ask for disproportionate power. Recognize the importance of mining. Once again, who is out there that's not giving the information that the tribes want? Because we consistently have that.
Oh, you brought it for the answer.
Yeah.
So I actually have in my written statement, I have a really good example of that with Tono Autumn Nation, and I just discussed it a little bit ago. And in this case, these were two foreign mining companies that came in and destroyed their village. But that plays out multiple times across federal lands when being granted the right to come in and mine under this 1872 Mining Act with foreign interests. There's another one that's got a permit in the exact same space for Tono Autumn where the village was destroyed. There's another foreign mining company that is proposing and asking for a permit, and I think it might have been granted. That was submitted in 2019.
I would just share, Mr. Chairman, part of the reason that we have all these foreign-owned mining companies is because of the uncertainty of the permitting process. What goes on with NEPA? Why would you, as an American, take your capital and invest in a project here in the United States of America? Isn't that correct, Mr. Adams, that there's a great discouraging of having domestic manufacturing?
Yeah, and on the coal side, because our permitting, there's an amazing amount of coal in the U.S., okay? But from what's permitted, we're in danger. We're looking at 15 to 20 years, and the financial investment that has to take place. If I go win an LBA and I have to come up with $500 million to buy that coal, I have to pay that in the first 5 years after getting it. It's going to be at least another 7 years before I get a penny of revenue off of that.
By the way, if we could go back to the State of the Union last night, President Biden saying, look at these companies that are having all these stock buybacks and things like that. Why would they invest in America, in American energy, when they may have a stranded asset in the very near future with trying to shut things down? I mean, I have a natural gas-fired plant up in Superior, Wisconsin that is almost done with the process of being able to build now, and it would augment the intermittent sources of power that are being built around the Midwest. The EPA, the Biden EPA, just came in the last 6 months and said, you got to go through a more detailed permitting process. Delay is death. And so they're really discouraging people from being able to invest. And so why would they invest when you see that? Mr. Holloman, would you expound a little bit more? You heard from Representative Stauber about these foreign sources and how there are going to be foreign countries that are going to benefit from what is supposed to be bought by in America. Could you expound on that a little bit more?
Sure. You know, China took a bet a long time ago, 15 or so years ago, that they don't have a bunch of mines either. And what they did was they built processing. They built a lot of processing all across the, future technological mining industry, copper, cobalt, lithium, nickel. They built the processing there to make the products such as sulfates or precursor cathode active material or cathode active material. And that is now where you have to sell your metal if you're a big producer. There are partners of ours that are big companies, a Glencore, for example, that is trying to do the mining correctly, and they don't have options to sell their cobalt, even if they have one of the few mines in the Congo that mines properly and is watched, and they only use proper Western practices, but they have to send it to China because China has the only processing. We don't have any processing here.
I yield back.
Gentleman's time's expired.